Welcome everyone to the February Town Hall and our second workshop. So this is our workshop on Marketplace and modules and custom UI. And we're going to attempt to do a live demo of building a sort of simple module, getting started with modules and how you would link in custom UI as well, because we've had quite a few questions about it. And in the last town hall, we discussed it quite a bit in terms of how people could build out maybe a booking system or gallery, or just generally making management of web apps and data easier from the UI. So helping customers navigate things more easily, perhaps. So I will bring up the presentation. So we're going to do a quick sort of intro of what we're going to look at and show some examples and then jump into a demo. So just 1 second. Here we go. So yes, so we are starting with a workshop. So really I wanted to quickly explain Marketplace and custom UI. So with Marketplace, I don't know how many people have used it regularly, but you would use it for installing some Siteglide modules and features such as the blog, authors, e-commerce, that kind of thing. But it's also where any community-driven modules might lie, or where you might make some site-specific modules as well. You might be doing a specific project for a customer. More on that later in terms of improvements as well. So you can build modules. They're things you install onto a site and they're repeatable, that you can use across multiple sites. And then separately from that, we have templates. So that's where we use the site copy feature, where you can essentially replicate a whole site, all the data, everything. And we've got templates that run off anything really, but some examples would be like a landing page site, a marketing site, and our portal template as well. So if you haven't had a look at those, they're worth having a look at. It's a great starting point. And they tend to run off a theme. A theme is another type of marketplace item, and that's a design system focused around a modular way of building things. So modular layouts and just components that you can use. So it might be as simple as forms, just making forms easier, but it might be the whole design system that helps you map out the site. So we've got one based off Bootstrap and one off Flowbyte. We've been into that quite a bit before in other town halls and workshops, so worth looking into those or reaching out if you have any questions. So modules can install on a site, templates are site copy of a whole site, themes are the framework that it runs off, and then we have integrations where you might have something that connects to a third-party system. I'll show you an example of one of those in a second. That's our CRM sync tool. And then finally, the other category at the moment is sort of useful code snippets to help with projects. We can add any new categories, so as the things develop, if you have any ideas of what you'd like to see or something that just doesn't fit one of those buckets, just let us know and we can add those in. And then the sort of newer and maybe less known area of Marketplace is the custom UI feature. It's a feature we brought in, I think probably a couple of years ago actually, but haven't really shouted about, and it's one of those ones where you have to kind of have some use cases for it and see how it develops. But essentially you can customize the back end of Siteglide, so the admin area, with your own UI. So you can bring in anything really. It could be data from an external system. It could be just a way to visualize some web app data. Maybe you've got 2 different web apps and you want easier management of things. So yeah, you can totally control what the UI looks like within the Siteglide admin area. Best way to think of it is a sort of front end sort of secure zone, but at the back end. So you don't have to get people to go to the website separately, log in and manage both the back end and the front end. They can essentially do it all in one. And there's a lot that can be done with that. You can basically then build exactly what you want. Combined with user roles and a feature I'm going to mention later, you can fully sort of customize the platform to only do one thing if you wanted it to. It could just be a booking system, or it could just be for managing a blog, as an example. So yeah, there's a lot of scope when you combine all of this together. And that's something we want to jump into, really, is first we'll have a look at some examples of what we built, what some other people have built in the community, and also then look at what could be next. So first up, Steve raised a hand. Go for it.
The UI in the back end, then could you make that available depending on who's logged into the dashboard? So could it be user specific? So like you just have, if somebody was updating all your blogs, you could just give the blogs to them and then somebody else for other web apps and stuff?
Yeah, so we've already got user roles where you can control what people see in the back end. Thinking about it, the one advancement I've got on a later slide that we want to do is let you fully control that left-hand side menu, so you can move things around, do top-level items, that kind of thing. Whereas at the moment, all modules will sit under modules. So effectively, you can only lock it down to modules right now. So they would see everything in the modules list, but you could hide CRM, you could hide pages, CMS, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, soon the plan would be that you can literally have one link in there if you wanted to, which would be to manage blog posts or whatever your custom UI is. But yes, you can control what people see and then let the custom UI do the rest. I think I'll show that in a second quite well with Site Builder, actually, because Site Builder is almost its own thing, and you could just give people that if you wanted. But yeah, good question.
Depending on your custom development, you could at the moment basically add like a password protection inside the custom UI, basically to add an extra layer of seeing who can access it with like JavaScript and Liquid. So that is possible, but I think we'll have even easier ways to do it in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that. Cool. Well, yeah, let's take a look at some examples. First up, I'll show Site Builder. I've shown this many times before, so I won't show it for very long. Nick, John, you might be a bit bored of it. But yeah, I'll quickly show that because it's a great example of custom UI effectively, but also doing things that you might not normally think of doing. It's not just sort of a web app layout. And actually, it's the basis for potentially module builder shortly, because we're trying to get it so that modules are even easier to build, and if they can run off site builder forms, for example, that handles all of your CRUD setup very, very easily. And for anybody that's used Business Catalyst or other platforms, forms can be one of the most time-consuming areas. So if you haven't used Site Builder already, you'll find that you can very quickly just set up a form layout, and it's dynamic to the different fields you might have. So we want to try and make that really easy for when you're building modules. You can just put in your create form, your edit form, delete, whatever it might be. Yeah, so we'll jump. I'll finish the presentation quickly, and then we'll jump across and have a look at a few of these examples. Something next up is the personalization hub. Helen from Imacom Design has shown this a couple of times, I think, and shared a couple of videos, but she's got a collection of modules that really help you personalize a website and the interaction with the customer. It's something that I've been really keen to see for a long time, because obviously having the CRM at the core of the platform is the perfect opportunity to then customize and personalize from there. So I'll show you a couple of examples of how you can do that very, very easily, and how modules have helped with that. Next up, one I get a question about a lot, actually, is analytics and Google Analytics reporting, that kind of stuff within the platform. And this is a great example that, again, Helen from Imacom Design has just put into a module. It's something that you could customize and do yourselves very easily as well. It's just a great example of how to get that data into the back end and the value of having it in one place. So we'll take a look at that. Then if anybody, you might have seen it recently, but Devon from Enginate released a video explaining his affiliate tracking module that he's just built. And that is essentially a couple of web apps and then a UI, custom UI to manage it all, make the admin a lot easier for customers. So I think that's a good example I'll show of how you can pull it together and just make it a lot nicer from a customer experience. Then I won't be showing this in this session. Michael's going to show it later. Michael from Big Fish Creations, his booking module that he's been working on. He's going to show that in the second session, and obviously just watch the recording for that part. But yeah, that's a CustomUI to help manage vacation rental bookings. So the customer can upload calendar availability and manage the sort of booking calendar from a CustomUI. Then finally, CRM sync. That's one that we SiteGurus released probably about a year ago now, maybe not quite a year ago, 8 months maybe, to help you sync your contacts from Siteglide to SendGrid. And then I believe we're adding in MailChimp shortly, and you could obviously connect it up to other platforms as well, typically CRMs or email marketing systems. Yeah, so we're going to have a look at those quickly. We will then move on to doing a demo, well, a workshop of how to get started with building a module, answer any questions and go through any sticking points maybe. So I will just pull up a few examples. All right. So first off, oh, hi Rox, good to have you with us. I'll just pull up Site Builder quickly to show that one. There we go. So if we just go into the site, this is just a site copy from Marketplace. If I quickly show you in Marketplace, you'd be able to go to a template and create a site from a template if you've not done this already. Again, apologies for people who've seen this many times, but you just click on one of the templates and create a site from that. And if we just jump back across, this is obviously the normal backend admin of Siteglide. If you go to modules, you've got Site Builder. So when you click that, this area here in the right hand side is CustomUI. So that is fully separate to the Siteglide UI, and all of the functionality in here is custom. You can do exactly what you want with it. Obviously, it's been designed to sort of fit in and match the UI. I'll show you some examples that are completely different, and it's totally up to you how you do it. But this tool lets you build out pages and layouts very easily. So it might be that you piece together an actual page. So you might put a static layout in first using one of our libraries. Let's say, I think this is the Flowbyte library, and you can piece together some dynamic sections as well. Definitely worth having a look at. I'd say the big one to have a look at is forms. It really helps speed up the creation and setup and management of forms. One of the biggest features, if people aren't aware, is once you've set up that form, if you then edit the form and add any new fields, or you change the fields in terms of required or anything like that, it will automatically update. You don't have to go back into the form and like edit the form and update it. And then finally, there's the layout section where you can literally pick a module or Siteglide functionality. It can even be your own modules that would appear in here, and pick layouts specifically for those. So it might be FAQ layouts, blog layouts perhaps, and install those onto the site. More on that in countless other videos, but I just wanted to show an example of CustomUI sitting within the Siteglide admin dashboard. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll show a couple of others which will probably help a little bit more.
I think a good thing to point out there as well, Luke, is it's a good example of the fact that a custom UI can be more than one page.
Yes.
This is actually 5 different main pages that you can navigate between, and all you need to do is it's a normal anchor tag, and you just need to provide an auth parameter in the URL to authenticate it within the Siteglide admin. Just a little query parameter at the end. So your custom UI can be more than just a page. It can be almost an entire website or application.
Yeah, and I think a good example for that is something like a settings page. So you might have some web apps or a module, but you need people to be able to configure it. It's great to be able to show them a quick settings page in your own kind of custom UI. Good. Okay, we'll jump across to another. Helen has, just jumping back to the slides quickly, Helen has given me a couple of examples I can show of the personalization hub, and actually some new modules that she's been working on and releasing. The first one to show is a little bit interactive. There's this URL just for you on one of her staging sites with this module installed. If I give you this link, in theory, well, I've tested it, you get a different experience depending on where you are in the world. So this is using her location-based module. She's got lots of different personalization tools depending on different ways of personalizing. This one is using location. So if I just put this in the chat quickly, you'd be able to visit that URL. And Rox, I think you might have to help us out here because I think we're all in the UK otherwise. But hopefully that looks a little bit different to you than what I'm seeing here.
Hope that Steve gets Scottish football shirts as opposed to English ones, I'm hoping.
Yeah. I'll show you the back end and how you could actually do that just while we're waiting. So I'm just in this demo site, but if we go to the location-based module, so this is personalization by location. This, you can set it up in different ways. This one is set up by country, and it's just a normal web app, just using module, but using web apps effectively. And there's different locations. So there's Canada, then US, GB, and AU. So, and France, I believe. So I imagine, Steve, you will see exactly the same. If you are not one of those locations, then it just shows a default. So there's a default one in there as well. But don't know if you've managed to get that loading, Rox. Let's have a quick look. So I get Australian women's soccer shirts. So yes, that has been personalized. Maybe not exactly to you, Rox, but yeah, that's something I mentioned actually to Helen when looking at this. I'm not a Liverpool, Reading, or Man United fan, but that's where you could then take it further, maybe using one of her other modules. There's quite a few actually, but just taking a look here. There's a language-based one, recommended fields-based one, and all sorts of things. So you could actually use the persona one, I believe she has, or some of the recommended fields to then go, well, actually, if you filled in a form saying that you're an Arsenal fan, which I am, it will then show you that specific content. So just the kind of things that you can be doing with Siteglide functionality anyway. What I wanted to mainly show was the way that you can set up modules, totally customize them in terms of how they're built and the sort of field structure and everything, and hook it up to the front end as well. Just jumping across, please do jump in if anybody's got any questions. I'll try and, don't know if I can show this picture. I'll try and show it later, but Rox has sent a picture of the Australian version. Next up, I'll quickly show you her recommender one that I just mentioned. So basically, if you don't have, you can add to the URL and show certain things that differ based on that value. If I just quickly remove that and kill the cookie, this is just probably less custom UI related on this one, but just showing very little content there or no description in this section here. And then if you send somebody there with a certain URL, it would change the content on the page. That's something you guys might do already, but it's also built into kind of the personalization set of tools. The last one I'd like to show from Helen's modules is the analytics dashboard, and I think this is something that's likely to be of interest and something you guys could do relatively easily. Actually, it's quite a. If we just go to it here, this is using CustomUI to pull in data from Google Looker, but it could be anything really. You could pull it in from any source, but you can start to build out reports for customers based on. Sorry, I just let Sunil into the meeting. Yes, so based on any kind of data, you can build out these reports. When we, one of the features that I keep trying to mention that we're going to be adding is the ability to update this left-hand side menu. In theory, you could set it as your dashboard, that the first thing people will see when they log into the site would be their marketing stats. And obviously you can control what this looks like and how much you pull in. Any questions on that? Because I think that's probably likely to be quite a popular one.
So how's that? Where are the settings for that? Where does it sort of sit in terms of how it connects between two and three?
So I believe I do. We discussed it briefly. So I believe with this one, before you add in the data, so I think this is again where we're going to expand custom UI and modules. We'll make this easier. But at the moment, you would, I think there's a code snippet or content section. Sorry, maybe it's a code snippet that manages the. You'd be able to put in the URL that you want to bring in effectively. But obviously that could soon, the way you could set it up is you could have a tab, as Matt mentioned earlier, where you put in your data or the settings that you want to control here. So effectively this one is about the simplest way you could do it for now, which is just embedding content from somewhere else. But the result is actually pretty powerful. But yeah, you could definitely take it further and have your own pages and settings and customization tools. The last one to show while I remember is the campaign URL builder. That's another one of Helen's modules. So this actually uses both types of view, and we'll look at this in a minute when we try and build a module. You can decide whether it's a module that just uses normal Siteglide table backend UI, whether it uses custom UI or whether it offers both. So at the moment, if you select both, it will always show the standard one first, and then it will show custom as the secondary option. Again, that's something we want to update, where you could control how this is displayed, where it's displayed, that kind of thing. But yeah, just switching from a normal sort of web app layout to be able to go to the custom view, where you can see essentially the results of the this is like a campaign URL builder. So you can create your own URL using a form. If we just go up to this page, and then you can view the data in here as well. So it's kind of just pulling everything together and making it easier to manage. The next one, I've only got a couple more to show quickly, and then we'll jump into a demo workshop trying to build a module. I'd like to show Devon's affiliate module. So I don't know if you've seen his video. He released a video maybe a week or so ago showing how he's used this for a client, and he's now set it up as a module that will soon be available to the community, or it is available to the community. You can just reach out to him and he'll help you get this set up if it's of interest, and it can be fully customized. But as an example, you could obviously close down the menu so you get it full width. This will show affiliate tracking data. So from the front end, it's tracking people based on a URL. So if we quickly just do that test, you'll see here that I've got referrer equals me. You would set up your affiliate members in the back end here, so you can create a new member. Again, this is what I was talking about earlier with like the sort of CRUD features available. As we build this into Site Builder, which is coming next, you would just be able to use Site Builder forms, flowbyte layouts, that kind of stuff to piece together custom UI pretty quickly. essentially kind of a sort of SDK way of doing things, where you wouldn't have to fully code all of this yourself. You would be able to use the site builder feature set and layouts. But yeah, here you would just use the create form to create a new member. That would add somebody to the affiliate member list. Just jumping away quickly, that is literally a web app here. Obviously, people could manage it like this. It's just nicer to offer it in one UI for the customer. So they would add their affiliate members, and then they would give that tracking to, well, they'd put that out in marketing maybe, and people would end up on a page like this with that in the URL. And then if somebody purchases something, let's just go quickly back to see what we've got. We've got 8 visits from this this referrer, sorry, this affiliate, the tracking data for this affiliate. And then you'll see under sales data, we also have 2 purchases. So if we just quickly go back, we've got 2 purchases of 75 and 8 visits. If we just refresh, you can now totally get rid of this URL as well. It's obviously cookie based. So once that's set, you can navigate around the site, come back to it later. As Devon was explaining in his video, you can then add a product to the cart. This is all dummy for now, but it's just an example. And then Joe, I'll do Joe Smith. I did John Smith last time, not very imaginative. Email.com. This is just a test form. And then we check out. So as I say, no URL, no special URL in there at this point. Thank you for your order. And then if we go back, and we should just be able to click off and click on again, probably even between tabs actually. We've got 9 visits, and the sales data, we've got the 3rd one in there, and that was Joe Smith who bought the 3rd one. So it's just a combination really of using Siteglide front end functionality, piecing it together with web apps to track and manage the data, and then a nice UI to manage it for the customer. So the customer can then come in and find their affiliates, export all the data, and you could expand this as much as you needed really. So definitely, if this is of interest or useful, reach out to Devon and he'd be able to help customize it for you. Any questions at all? Okay, I think that was everything I was going to show. Yeah, just briefly mentioning the CRM sync again. If you've not seen it, worth having a look. If we just go back to integrations, you'll see in here CRM sync. So might be worth having a look if you've got to send any data across to SendGrid, and you're managing email marketing campaigns from there maybe.
We actually have the
Right.
MailChimp one in a sort of beta stage. So if anybody needed that desperately, let us know and we can get it to you early.
Yeah, we've got quite a few customers who use MailChimp, and would be handy. Saves them having to connect via Zapier and all kinds of all kinds of things. If it does it automatically, that would be great.
Yeah, as always, happy to obviously work with you to make sure it gets set up properly. So yeah, we'll sort of put a message out in Discord once that's fully released, and then happy to work through it with you, make sure it's all working correctly. Right, done a lot of talking, so have a little bit of water. Good. So I think we've been through most of the demos there. Yeah, in the later session, Mike will show his booking module as well. So we're going to jump on and try and do a sort of live end-to-end example now of how you would get started. And I think a lot of it is just seeing the pieces together. And if you haven't attempted any of this before, just making sure how we show how you do it, and it's actually relatively straightforward to get started. There's obviously you could then do a lot on top of it in terms of customization, and that's something that various people can assist with if needed. But I think today is just showing you how to get started. We're also, as I mentioned, we're going to be releasing quite a bit more to make it easier using the site builder route. So first steps would be to decide whether you're going to try and do it from scratch or pick a sort of boilerplate template from a GitHub repo. The latter is what we're going to show, and that's what we would recommend because it's fairly standard setup that you just don't need to do yourself really. So we would recommend in our docs we'll have a link to the new repo that we've set up as a template, and you might find that library expands. There'll be more templates available, or the template will expand in terms of different settings that you could use. So if we jump across to GitHub, let me just go back, sorry. So this is the boilerplate template. Again, we'll link to this, but all you need to do is go to this this repo link. There's a bit of instructions there and docs on developers that would explain more on how to get all of this set up. But the first thing that you would do is click use this template and create a new repo. So we do that, assuming everybody has a GitHub account, pretty easy to get one if not, but we would just set this up and we would say marketplace workshop Session1. That in there for neatness. I'll take a copy of that and create repo. I've got Matt here. Matt, do jump in if I get any of this wrong. The idea here was that if I can do it, then hopefully anybody can do it. Probably a bit brave on a live demo, but here we are. So we've created a copy of the repo. So this is your version of it now. Once you've created that, there's a couple of options in terms of how to go forwards, but we'd always typically recommend using CLI and some local IDE like Visual Studio Code, which is what I'm using. But there are actually ways to do it fully from GitHub if you wanted. One, if you don't know about it, is might get the link wrong here, but I think it's maybe this.
If you go into a file, there's a link from the GitHub file to edit the file in that.
Brilliant, thanks. Yeah. So is it that one there? No.
Click on the drop down arrow by the pencil next to the one you just clicked, and then
there we go. Yeah, brilliant. I wasn't going to show this, so we haven't prepared for this, but if you want to, you can edit directly on GitHub. It's quite a nice feature to have it there, but and it looks very similar to VS Code. In fact, I assume it maybe is.
Yeah,
sure.
They own it now.
Right. Okay.
Microsoft now.
So you can come in here and manage everything in here if you want to. I don't think there's any reason not to, Matt, but
no, you might as well. It's quicker.
Yeah,
you can use the find and replace there.
Yeah. So what we'd recommend doing, or you might want to do, is use something like VS Code and set it all up in there. So you can actually just go. They make it nice and easy as well. So you can go clone GitHub repository, clone from GitHub, workshop Session1, and then you just have to put that in a folder. So we do, and that will then open. So you've got exactly the same thing showing here as we do in the GitHub version. Totally up to you which you use. So I'm just going to go back for a second just to show the repo. So what we need to do next is you essentially have to just replace a bit of data, just replacing the template of my module ID with the ID. So what we need to do first is we need to go off to Siteglide Marketplace and create a module. So click Add New Module over here. You can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it Marketplace Workshop Session1. You pick a category, most likely going to be module, I would have thought, for the kind of things we're looking at, especially CustomUI. Put a description in, then you have to give it a version, which we'll just do as 0.0.1. Then your repo, GitHub repo account, that's just whatever is showing in here effectively, just your name. And then the repo name, which again, I called that. So I think I've got this correct. We're just going to hit save on that one there. So that will create the module. It's as simple as that. There's nothing else to do to create the module. The only little bit of work that we've got to do now is take the ID of the module and update the repo so that it knows, so it hooks it up effectively. So 149.
Quickly jump in and say that this works because this repo is public at the moment. So Siteglide is able to find the repo, access it, and get the module installed. If you need to create a private repo, that's fine. It's just as you need to add a collaborator API at siteglide.com to give it access.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Yeah, that's in the docs as well.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so we will now, let's do it from VS Code. I'm feeling adventurous. So you'd come into VS Code and we're just trying to replace the ID effectively. So if you go edit, replace in files, we're looking for my_module underscore ID. And we want to replace it with 149. I'll go back and have a look. 149. And then click.
You need to replace, sorry, before you go, you need to replace the whole thing with just the number. Makes sense.
Ah, yes, thanks. Yeah. Yes, there we go. That correct?
Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you.
And you also need to replace the folder, which can't be replaced because it's a folder.
So just updating this here needs to have the module ID in it. So we would just rename, and on this one, Matt, I believe it's just 149 instead
you
of
need
the
to get
ID.
rid of my module, but it's the module underscore then the number.
Good point. Yeah. There we go. So module underscore 149. So you're literally just replacing the my module ID with the ID. It makes sense. And then if we just look in here, I don't think we've got anything else to do because you'll see that the it's been updated. We did that find and replace, so it's updated all of those everywhere. And we'll now push this and we'll say update module ID as the commit. Click commit and sync those changes. Then you should find that you can come back to your repo that you copied, and you'll see that there's been a new commit just now with update module ID, and you can see the number there. So as long as you see the real ID in there, you can just go in and double check if you need to, just to check that that file has the right references and everything. But all looking okay, I think, Matt.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So then back to our module. That's been set up. So technically now we can go and install that on our site. Let's do that, and then we'll look at CustomUI afterwards.
One more step.
Sure.
The Siteglide won't check the newer version of the GitHub until you update the version. It will always cache the old version for performance. So just need to bump the version number to tell it to check the new change.
That's the kind of thing that can catch you out for hours, I imagine. There we go. Right, so yeah, we've updated the module. So now all we need to do is go to a site. Here's one I made earlier for Session1, and I'll just refresh so that our module appears. We called it Marketplace Workshop Session1. Go to modules. You will see that I've had a few attempts at this already. Marketplace Workshop Session1 and click install. That's installed successfully. And then if we go through to admin, to modules, it's not there because we haven't set up the CustomUI bit yet. But I just wanted to show that we've got the module installed and it's not appearing there. So all we need to now do is go back to the module itself and there's these extra settings that you'd want to use for custom UI. So show menu item, you'd give it a name. Just copy this. Let's call it get rid of marketplace just to prove that it is this wording. UI type, I'm going to do custom UI for now. And then you just need to add this custom UI path. I'll double check. We have this in the docs, but I believe it's modules. Actually, I'll go and grab it from just another one quickly.
So this is just the URL for a page we've included in the GitHub repo. It happens to be in the private folder, which is why it's namespaced with the module ID, but it could just be any URL technically.
I believe it would be that, maybe without this.
That's right. Yes, if you hover over the question mark, it does, I think, say that.
Ah, there we go.
In the example, it doesn't start with a /. I'll catch you out, yeah.
Yeah, so modules / module underscore ID, and then / index, if that's what you've called the file. In here we have index, so that's what it needs to be. And that's everything to get custom UI set up and showing. If we just do a version update and click save, and we then go back to site settings, modules, and you'll see here that this one has an update available. Click update. Back to admin, and you'll see here that we have a new module appear with custom UI. So it's very basic. It is just a starting point. This is the boilerplate for you to get going, but it's the setup so that you can then put whatever you want into here. So then I think this is where, Matt, you might need to take over and answer any questions that people have, but effectively you're just working as normal with Siteglide. So you would then edit your page and develop into it, whether you're connecting up from web app data or not. Totally up to you, really.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk a little bit about what sort of default settings are in this boilerplate as well. So in this page, you've got the YAML part of the page you wouldn't normally see in Siteglide admin, but is always there behind the scenes. So when using CLI, that YAML part appears between 3 dashes at the beginning and 3 dashes at the end. So that's the metadata of the page. You see you've got some security set up on that page for you. Mainly, the security does 2 things. One, admin passes into its iframe as sort of a secret key that lasts for a certain amount of time. I think it's 2 weeks. It gives access, and the authorization policy will give a 404 if that key is expired. And also the content security policy makes sure that only admin can iframe this page in. You can't iframe it somewhere else. So that's the security. If you notice, because we've got that security, if you look at the link, the anchor tag, you need to include an auth liquid at the end of the URL you're linking to pass that authorization to the next page within the admin. Instead of that particular liquid, you could just do context params.auth, which will get it from the existing URL. If you go to the setup JSON link, that's probably useful. So it's optional to create a database table specific to your module, but this is the easiest way to do it. If you see the system fields line on line 13, you can see that you can create these core fields that will be installed with your module. People can always install custom fields on top, but the benefit of the core fields is you can do functionality with them, knowing their IDs, either for settings or for your core functionality. So that's the easiest way to set those up, and you can do images, as you can see, with the type. If you want to see what types are available, that's in the developer docs. If you just search for field types, and some of those other settings are the default module settings as well for that database table. This is optional. You don't need to, if you're doing something like the Google Looker thing, you don't necessarily need a database table. There's like a stripped down, you could do a stripped down version of that file, which doesn't add any fields.
So Matt, if I was to change this to a both UI type and I
Yeah.
went to the standard view, I would see those fields if I created an item or edited an item. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if you go into that normal Siteglide admin view, you'll see there's like a custom field and a standard field view, and those fields will appear in standard fields. They're the core fields that can't be edited. And it's actually might be useful to not have some fields which can't be edited by your users. So your functionality can rely on them. You don't need to necessarily update the module if you're just changing settings. It's only if you're changing the code base that the version needs to change. Yeah, so if you want to create multiple tables instead of just one, you'd need to use a different method, which is there is actually an example on the docs, an older example in the data and UI module docs, which shows that method of creating a YAML file. It's a bit more old-fashioned. It's not the way we're going to go forward. We're going to, I think, make it easier to do. But if you need to make multiple tables for now, it's the Property Explorer one. I think it's at the top. Is it at the top of here? Yeah, if you were to click on that link, CustomUI demo at the top of there, that will show you the slightly older way of doing it. You could create multiple tables. Yeah, if you from this one.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Great. Anything else you wanted to show from the back end here, Matt?
Yeah, so I should talk about the platform OS namespacing. So what we've done here with the the index.liquid custom UI page is we put it inside the private folder. Normally website content goes within something we call a marketplace builder folder, and module content goes within modules module 149 private or public. And if you look at the line 2 here, we're using a page template which is within the private area, and so even though it's within the way you reference the fact that it's within either public or private, as long as it's in the module somewhere, is you namespace it with modules/module and then your ID. And then you can reference after that any of the templates within that layouts folder. Layouts is what Platform OS call Siteglide page templates. I think Sunil was asking, can I have a page template which is just for my custom UI that my front end users can't use for their ordinary pages? Then this is how you would do it. You'd put it inside private so that people can't see it, but you can still use it as long as you namespace. And we've also put our custom UI page inside the private area so that people don't have it available in their pages in Siteglide admin and clutter up their site. You want to have things for the custom UI tucked away so that they're not appearing for ordinary users. If you want to dive more into that, the sort of public, private, and that kind of thing, let us know. We can point you to the right Platform OS docs. In terms of putting layouts, our recommended way is actually that you head over to the site builder docs, and we can go through this another time, but there are steps to make your layouts appear in site builder, but that does take a little bit longer. So if you just want to get started quickly, what you can do is you can create a marketplace builder folder on the root here, and you can create a views, partials, layouts folder, and you can put your layouts in there, and that will make them appear on the user's site for them to use. The benefit of the site builder approach is that if you want to make an update to a layout, you can do that without breaking someone's site. So there is a benefit to the site builder approach, even if it takes a few more steps. And we can help you to achieve that if you're building a module.
Yeah, so just sort of jumping in on that. So yeah, we're going to be pushing this further and making it easier and easier to use, as I mentioned at the beginning. So Site Builder is going to definitely be a tool that would help with that. You're always totally free to bypass that and do it the way we're looking at now. Literally what we've just shown you is your starting point regardless. So if you're happy just to code from scratch, then do the steps that we've just been through, but we'll keep updating you with more site builder related features that speed it all up. I think I'll just quickly summarize what we've done and show you the sort of what's coming next. But then it'd be great to hear any questions from anybody and sort of delve into some of the details if people wanted. But yeah, just to very quickly summarize. So what we did is we decided to go from a template. We went to the repo, the GitHub repo for that template. We clicked use this template and create new repository, created that repository. We then went into Siteglide Marketplace, created a new module, given its name, description, category, version, those kind of things. Put in our GitHub account name and the repo name as well from the one we just created. And then all we had to do was update the module ID with the vanity ID because it just didn't know what that was until it was created. And then finally, we set up CustomUI so that it would show, again, just those few settings to put the menu item in there, decide what type it is, and link to the page that we want to show. Obviously, you've got total control over which page you want to show by default. And then, yeah, you just test it out. We've gone and had a look at it. And then beyond that, you would be looking at how to customize it further and build in whatever functionality you need, really, whether that's just visualizing web apps or a completely new use case we haven't even thought of yet. So yeah, finally, I wanted to just show what's next. I want to do this now before I forget to, and so that everybody can then delve into the detail if we want to, or if anybody needs to go, yeah, totally understand. So yeah, where we want to take this, I think Marketplace has a real opportunity this year to really expand. We've already seen people build some very interesting and powerful modules and improvements, and I think there's quite a lot being discussed in terms of what could come next. So we want to make that easier. Effectively, the easier we make it, the quicker it is, and therefore more viable it is for you to do it for either projects or even for the marketplace itself. And you can already charge for modules if you want to, or you can just release them and make them available, totally up to you. So we'll be really tweaking and improving the site builder support for that. So just make it really easy to start from Flowbyte layouts, probably most likely, and site builder forms, for example, and just other site builder Siteglide functionality. So just that ability to quickly set up an area, sort of a UI area with basic CRUD features of adding an item, let's say, editing, deleting, those kind of things, and then also being able to bring in any other site builder layouts easily as well. It's effectively as if you're making a front-end secure zone, as we've talked about, but putting it into the admin as a sort of back-end tool. Next up would be site modules. So this isn't really a feature enhancement, it's just taking away unnecessary complexity or mess, really. So at the moment, to create, let's say you just want to make a specific tool for one client on one site, you currently have to build that as a module in the marketplace. Whereas going forward, we want you to be able to, probably just a setting in here somewhere, just toggle whether it includes all of the marketplace information and appears in the marketplace or not. You can just make it as something that would only appear for that site and only installed on that one site. So that just helps keep things clean. The big one, I think, that has the most power and value that we really want to do is something that a couple of people have mentioned recently, but is being able to customize the admin navigation, as we've briefly talked about. So that would be taking user roles further and allowing you to actually create your own left-hand side menu, decide what shows where, the hierarchy, that kind of stuff, and potentially even do things like, well, it would allow you to do things like deciding what people first see on the dashboard, for example. This isn't particularly useful for an end client maybe, whereas showing them the, where are we, the analytics dashboard, something like this, would be far more valuable and interesting for the customer. So yeah, we want to really expand the customization of the back end so that you can take control really, and you could make Siteglide for that customer just appear as if it's a booking system and nothing else, or a blogging module, or whatever it might be. And then finally, we want to expand, sort of on top of that, is expand CustomUI and its use. So at the moment, as I mentioned, it can only be either instead of the standard Siteglide UI or an extra tab that appears, is not the default. Obviously, we want to allow you to make that the default, but we also want you to allow you to be able to put it somewhere else. So let's say you might want to put a custom UI under pages, or any functionality really, like the ability to allow you to control where custom UI can be placed, and essentially updating the menu would give you that functionality. But I think being able to do it on top of pages is a good example. I think we talked about that in a recent town hall, where in theory you could have SEO tools that would work on top of pages. So you could have like a AI tool for improving page content, and that could use custom UI. Yeah, I think those are most of the things that we've got planned at the moment. There's obviously a lot more that we can add, and yeah, always keen to hear what you'd like to see and how we can take it further. So I think I'm going to stop talking and over to you guys to ask any questions in terms of what we've shown, and if you've got any questions about how you get set up with building a module, or just generally anything marketplace related.
Hi, Luke.
Hi, Sunil. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yes, very good, thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, while registering this webinar, I had asked 3 questions, and out of those
Yes.
3 questions, I have got answer for 1 question related to the font or some icons, and that issue is solved. The another question was related to the user's query, and for that query, Matt is checking with the platform OS team. And the third one, which is pending here, and I want to ask on this platform, is how to link assets like CSS and JS for custom UI module. Can Matt or you show some example? Miss, it's actually I'm not able to do that. Miss, it is not properly linking. So that is why I have added CSS internally in that template, which is created for the custom UI.
I see. So I briefly mentioned namespacing. Inside the, so is the idea that you want the assets to only appear, so to basically not appear in File Manager? You want them to just be for the custom UI?
Yes, in
Yeah,
private.
so
yeah.
Yeah, so you should be able to put them within either the public or the private folder, in an assets folder inside those. And that should get them on the site. But then when you reference them, they would need to be namespaced with module 148, whatever your ID is, and then the asset. So it was easier if I maybe share screen and I'll show you site
Sure.
builders one.
Okay, fine.
Let's get the right screen. Oh, shall I share? Hang on.
Okay, you are sharing or
Yeah, shall I share? Because I can just show you how it works inside.
yeah, you can share. You can share. You can
to
share.
tell.
Okay,
Um,
I'm stopping my screen. You can share and show me some example.
yeah, so this is Site Builder behind the scenes. Actually, this is not a good example. Let's see. I think I stopped using it, but it was here. So in the public folder, you can have assets. It's not possible to make an asset like truly hidden from somebody if they're using CLI, but you could hide it from File Manager by putting it inside, say, this folder. Just why it doesn't really matter if it's private or public, essentially. Private is probably best if you want to really hide it, but they can still access it if they know the link because it's still on the CDN.
Okay.
So is that what did you try putting it in that folder already?
No, actually I had added asset folder in private folder.
Okay, yeah, it should be the same. And so then if I were to go to a page, and I'll just briefly show you how it should be. So if you were to go to a page and wanted to access that asset, let's say it was an image. It would be something like this. And then let's say it was this one. Actually, that probably, sorry, I keep jumping around, but this probably is a real example. Tailwind-admin. Yeah, here we go. That's a real example. Sorry, I forgot that was still there. So yeah, so your modules, module 86, then you don't need to ever put public or private in the path. You always skip that. And you would, in assets, you always skip the assets folder as well. And then you start from here. So CSS and then the name of the file. Does that help?
Yes, good for
It's a
me.
little bit confusing. It's probably good to check the Platform OS docs on that as well, because Platform OS have, set this standard in terms of referencing files and modules. That's not our decision. So their docs are pretty good on that as well. But yeah, give that a go, and if you get stuck, let me know.
Thank you.
Right, I'll stop sharing.
Yes.
So hopefully we've answered all of your questions, Lesnil. We'll come back to you on the other two. Well, it sounds like we solved one, which is good.
Yeah, the other ones with Platform OS, and Sunil's building a module, and that's great. And it's just a GraphQL question to help him with that.
Great. Just reading through all the other questions quickly and see if we can answer some of those. But anybody else have any questions on CustomUI or Marketplace or building these modules?
I think there was a question in the questions on a gallery module and if that was planned.
Yes. So it's one that, I mean, if somebody wants to take it on, very welcome, they can let us know, but it's one that we plan to release fairly soon because it's quite a simple thing to do. I think I've explained many times, we've never done it because there's so many different ways you could do it, but we're going to come out with a very simple gallery runoff site builder as soon as we have that site builder route set up, because it'll just make so much sense to get site builder set up to build anything, and then from there we can quite easily throw together a gallery or a X quite easily. So we do plan to release something on that pretty soon, but it would be quite easy to put together a gallery anyway if you just use a web app, for example. Don't know if you want to add to that, Matt.
No, exactly. The reason we haven't built it is more like a design and UX reason rather than a technical reason. That you could have, I mean, right now you can add image arrays in your web app, and you've got a gallery. It's just, and we've got site builder slider layouts already. It's just a term trying to figure out if there's a custom UI that makes it really easy to manage lots of galleries en masse. It just needs we just need to figure out the use cases and the design for that.
Any other questions at all on, are there any kind of modules that anybody's looking to build, or questions about how you go about using what we've shown you?
that are in the they're kind of already built but not as modules. So yeah, it's kind of a case of lifting them into modules. So yeah, we'll have a look through and see what which elements we've got and try and create them as modules, which should be easier for us to use them and hopefully easier for everyone else to share them too.
Are yours? Do you think yours tend to be built off Tailwind and or Flowbind? Because that should make it easier.
Yeah, they will be generally. Yeah, certainly Tailwind more so than Flowbind, but yes, they will be.
Okay.
Are you able to? I'm guessing you probably can, but the GraphQL and those sorts of things as part of the modules, so be creating the queries that are used.
Are we able to show it, or is it possible for you to do it?
I don't know. Just, is that the way you would do it as part of it?
Yeah, so I'll let Matt answer more, but at the moment that is the way you have to do it, and we're trying to make it so that you don't have to use GraphQL, and we're going to let Site Builder take over make it easier, and then you do GraphQL on top. But I'll let Matt add to that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You should be able to use any code that you can use on a website in the CustomUI. But at the moment, our Siteglide forms and platform-wide forms as well hit a security issue when you try and use them. So we're trying to solve that security problem for you to make basically once you can use forms, it's just going to become a lot quicker. Because we use GraphQL in all of ours, but it does take time because you've got to write a query for create, write a query for update. Each different step needs a new query, and that does take time and increases the barrier to the module being commercially viable. So the quicker we can make them to build, the more we can build, basically, and the more everyone else can build.
Obviously, the benefit is that you can do anything, and GraphQL gives you that access to be able to build whatever you want, pretty much. So it's definitely, if you need to do something, it's a great way to go. But we just, as we say, we just want to keep making it easier.
Yeah. So like, if I think of an example, like if you have a gallery module and you want to create a new gallery and it's just like a module or web app item, you would want a form to quickly add lots of fields at once, and that's where a form comes in really nicely. But if you then have a UI where you want to drag and drop things and move them around, GraphQL will be really good along with a bit of JavaScript to go, okay, there's an event, they've dragged it, fire that event, and that can go to an API page which runs a mutation which just changes one field, and that's where GraphQL is really good for just changing one thing very quickly. And that's where a form and GraphQL in the future could work together really nicely.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to. Sorry, go ahead, Rox.
Well, no, just saying okay.
Cool. Thanks. I thought I'd just quickly show Site Builder again to kind of link into this in terms of what we're talking about. So the idea being that you don't have to set up everything yourself from scratch each time. So if you're trying to do let's say, list out some items to then be able to click on them and edit them, for example, you could insert one of these layouts for your list view, and then you could come across to your forms and pick essentially an edit web app or web app item create form. You could use that form as part of your custom UI to manage adding a new web app item, whereas normally this would be used front end. So we're just trying to leverage what we've already got for building out sites and secure zones and everything within modules, because why not? Would that be a fair explanation or description, Matt?
Yeah, so as I said, at the moment, forms have a security block, which is good to have. It's good to have it blocked. It's good to have like a high security, but it's a little bit too high at the moment. So due to cookies and things like that as well. So we're hoping to unlock that for you. And yeah, there is a module create and update form lower down. They're different categories on Site Builder, just because it gives you slightly different code. And
oh yeah, sorry, yeah, it's a module there.
The benefit of doing something like site builder forms in the future as well will be that if you then edit your module and add a new field, that will automatically add to your form, and you won't have to keep going and adding the field in lots of different places. You just add it in one place, and all the forms will update. And can be customized as well.
I think if we take the gallery as an example, let's imagine we were doing that now and we had the site builder route going. We would have our Flowbyte template already set up from templates. We'd be able to piece together some static content if you wanted to. So if you knew you wanted a section that just introduced it, or pull in any of these, that would be easy enough into your layout, into your page. But then where the real power is being able to say, okay, we want a list view of gallery items, so we'll do that from one of these. And then you want, your create form. We looked at those earlier, but let's say you then want to output it as a slider, for example. You can grab one of these layouts. So you can take the same functionality and concept, but just quickly piece it together from a code and visualization perspective. So we just want to help you leverage all of this code and concept as quickly as possible, really. So I think that covers pretty much everything. I mean, you can get started immediately, just copying the repo, doing the steps we said, and then once you're into your page, your liquid index page, it's work as normal, really. You just start doing things, building out whatever functionality you need, as if you would a front-end secure zone, just with those little tweaks that Matt mentioned around sort of namespacing. And that's where we'll keep improving the docs, and you guys just keep asking questions if you get stuck. And it shouldn't, in theory, be too different. So I would definitely, if you've got a use case for it, and you could end up building something like this, where I think a good example is where managing multiple web apps is either too time consuming because there's a lot of processes going on between the two, or between the multiple web apps, or where you're just trying to make the user experience a lot better for a customer. So we'd love to hear any examples that you're working on, or any ideas that you have, and we'll do our best to assist. Did anybody else have any questions at all? Appreciate we've gone over time-wise.
Yeah, that was pretty good as a foundation sort of thing. It'd probably be good to maybe a work through example as well. So maybe the affiliate marketing or something like that to just, so I can see all the different elements, but actually the next step sort of thing is still a bit beyond me, but I'm slow. So.
Yeah, that is the problem. It's all the chicken and egg, is that we've kind of shown you how to get started, and then we need something to get started on. So I think in the later session, Devon will probably walk through and answer any questions on specifically the affiliate one, and watching that bit of the recording might make sense. But yes, I think we always said we would do either further workshops or even more impromptu Discord meetings where we can just get together and try and solve a specific topic. It was kind of hard. It was quite hard to try and plan that out as a live demo. So yeah, I think discussing more in Discord and getting to a point where people want to work through a specific example would definitely help, and definitely happy to do that.
Yeah, I think also once we've cracked the forms, we'll sort of announce that and show you how to do that as well as the sort of next step following on from this workshop.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate your time. And just shout if you have any more questions on it. We'll
can we hang on just to run through a couple of these e-commerce bits? I don't think not related to anyone else particularly, but can we grab that?
Yeah, sure. Shall we? Do you want to carry on the meeting, or chat afterwards?
If that works for you?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Cool. Fantastic. John, do you want to jump in?
Oh, I can do. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. So we've still got, as I mentioned on Discord earlier on, we've got this issue that was raised back in December about having 2 items in a basket when having 2 different VAT rates.
Yeah.
Now, last session that we did, Town Hall brought it up, and we were talking about the line being able to adjust the VAT by line and by basket, etc., which Matt has put in place. And at that point in time, I mentioned this, and I believe you said, Luke, yes, that's fine. That will solve that issue by having it calculating on the line. So at which point I went, that's great, thank you very much. And now Matt's saying, no, it's a completely unrelated issue.
It's just 2 parts, that's all. It's just 2 parts.
So
it is effectively, there's the most urgent bit is obviously rounding calculations. So we've worked together on those rounding items, and I think we need to see that fully working and just double check with you and get feedback on any rounding.
We've fed back on that. Said, yeah, that works really well. Happy with that.
Yeah. So the next step is then functionality, which it's all I meant is it's the basis for how you do that. If you prior to having,
so I took that as being fine. We're dealing with it; it'll be done at the same time, because that's the way.
Well, we'd rather fix the rounding issues and make sure it's rounding correctly. But I mean that it's the basis for how you would calculate, because if we don't have per line or per item. Rounding, we don't have it as calculation either. So yes, now we can.
So you've done the first bit, making everything calculate per line rather than an entire basket, and that means we can now have. So just for everyone else, we've got this issue where in the UK you might have for heating products, for example, there's a 5% tax, whereas it's normally a 20% VAT tax.
Or you may have some items that don't have VAT at all.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. So it's just being able to calculate the VAT on the line, where previously it was only on the cart. So
or it was only on the line, or it was on the. We couldn't. There was no.
You could show it on the line, but it wouldn't actually.
But then it doesn't calculate it properly.
I believe when it's when there's no tax, I believe that works. Is that correct? You can have items with tax and some without, or because I believe we discussed that a few weeks ago.
I'd have to double check that, Luke, to be quite honest. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, I've got a site that's just about to go live, and that's part of our testing. So I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you in a bit. We'll run some. They've got safety products which don't have VAT on them, whereas everything else does have VAT. So we check that runs through correctly. So we'll run that as a test and let you know then. So effectively, it's just a next stage that needs to happen. Sorry, we took the email that it was unrelated, and therefore can't happen or something.
No, not at all. Just obviously we would want to work on the rounding as one's a fix, let's say, and one's functionality. So let's make sure that it's calculating as expected. Hopefully we can get you the 0% one working. I'd have to double check what we discussed, but it looked like there was a way of that working. And then we'll discuss further and update you further on the multiple tax rates in the basket.
Yeah, because this is becoming a bit of an issue for me now, because I've got a client going, I need to sell these products, they're on my website and the VAT's all wrong. And realistically, as far as they can see, they can add a new tax code and they can apply a tax code to a product, but it's then not pulling through to the basket, and they're going, well, that should work. Why is that not working? I'm like,
I think the first time we all thought of this as a concept, though, was about December. So it's a relatively new idea.
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, it was the first time we'd even come across that as a thing. However, other e-commerce platforms don't have this issue. Maybe they worked on it previously, but it's just, why doesn't it do that? My accounts package deals with it. Why does the website not deal with it? So,
I blame the clients.
Well, there is that as well. So
it's an interesting one. If you never come across it, then it's
absolutely
it's a tricky one.
At the moment, it's high because I'm getting heat from over here, and therefore I'm passing it over to you. Sorry.
No. As always, I mean, we've been working with you guys specifically on e-commerce for quite a while now, and it's extremely helpful to have those use cases. They only crop up when they crop up,
Exactly.
and
Yes.
we'll always continue working through on them. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I've got one more. So I mentioned in my message, which obviously Luke and I have been chatting about separately, this is the potential to, and we ruled out in December because no, we don't think we'll ever need that, but we do. It turns out custom fields on attributes would be useful. But actually, I've worked out a workaround, but it requires product grouping. And I can't remember. There was somebody who put it was. I'll go the guy in Mauritius. Got his name.
Daniel Depaz.
Daniel Depaz. Thank you. Yeah, Daniel's done product grouping. I think I'm right in saying, and I just wanted to know: is there a kind of route how we do that? I just can't remember how that was implemented.
So Sunil, who's also on the call, is involved with that, and I am.
Okay, cool.
I think I will maybe I mean, Daniel might be interested in sharing that module. Currently, he owns it essentially.
Okay.
It would. I think it was built in a certain way to suit a site that might have been on BC with product grouping and could be imported into a new Siteglide site. Though last time there was a use case to use it, we chose not to use it because we had quite a lot of GraphQL on the site, and it made more sense to work with GraphQL than to use the module. So,
yeah, the only thing we're thinking is if we can have a drop down at the top which changes the product, then we can, because what we need custom attributes for is we've got products with different weights, really annoyingly, and then we need to calculate the shipping weight. Which is why we currently they've got WooCommerce, which is falling on its arse or has fallen on its arse completely. So we need to get this live urgently. But yeah, this is the kind of the final stumbling block there, where they have products where the attributes have different weights because they're different size attributes, and quite literally they go from that big to that big. So the weights are quite significantly different. But I thought if I could group into size first as product grouping, that would solve the issue. So if there is a work or a way of doing that using GraphQL, or whatever route that would be, that would be really handy, just so that we could put a drop down into place that effectively switch the product.
Obviously, we always want to add the functionality and expand. Custom fields on everything is the ideal. That's the dream, and that will make things really powerful. But I think in the meantime, if GraphQL is possible and you need a quick fix, Matt, do you think there's a way that can be done?
I wouldn't describe it as a quick fix.
That never is.
I'd describe it as a few days.
Yeah,
a few days of development, or we can put you in touch with Daniel, and you can discuss whether he would be interested in giving you access to the module. I mean, he's paid for it, so he might expect some contribution towards that, but we can put you in touch to talk about that. But if it turns out that module wouldn't suit you, we can look at SiteGurus building you a solution which does suit you, or working with you to help you to build it. But it is a complicated feature. There is not going to be a quick, unless the module really works, it might not be a quick fix.
Is there any quick BC style hack where we could use a link to a web app or anything like that with an ID?
I mean, definitely after the call, send me the details and I can look and see if I can think of something. I think the reason I say product grouping is not quick is because when you say product grouping and then you list what individual features that involves, there's about a list of 15 different features to build that feature, if you see what I mean. So you could do any one of those 15 things, but you haven't achieved product grouping yet. You've got to do all of them. If that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, one of those.
But you don't actually want product grouping though, do you, Nick? If we can just expand attributes to give you you can link data to it, that would be okay. That's what you want.
At this stage, I mean, yeah, there's probably a couple of fields would be amazing. I must admit, I've even looked thinking, could we use the alt tag field in there?
Which we have done previously, because we just because it's there and it's. But yeah, I mean, we could do it. But then you obviously don't get an alt.
Yeah, then
for
we
the
use
image,
the alt
so,
tag, which isn't the ideal. But you know, could we do that in the short term? But yeah, if we could get an additional field in there that could be used for whatever, that would.
I mean, short term, we could possibly do like just add a field on that one site, and then you could you'd have to use something like CSV to change it because it wouldn't appear in the UI straight away. Or we could do a.
Oh yeah, that would be fine. They're never going to need to change it. These are, you know, or if they do, they can, you know, we can do it using CSV. Yeah.
You guys could add it once in GraphQL. Then once the field's been added.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably would want to recommend that you guys retrofit it afterwards. Once this being a temporary fix, I think, and then once we have the functionality, probably best to update it.
Yeah, but if we get a field in now, that solves our problem on this site. It's literally only one bloody product as well, typically.
Really?
But yeah. So no, that if that was possible and it's fairly quick to do, that would be.
Yeah, talk to me on Discord afterwards, and we'll see if we can come up with a short-term solution for that one site. And obviously, I'll let Matt be in charge of the long-term solution.
Yeah, cool.
I think if it wasn't e-commerce, I'd be saying, well, if we can, we'll give you a copy of the core module and you know, do whatever we can. But e-commerce is not really one of those that you want to play around with. We'll come up with a real solution, even if it's an interim one.
Nice, lovely, cool. Thank you very much.
No problem. I mean, obviously, it's great to hear that. You're able to replace broken WooCommerce sites. Is there anything else to have on the radar to mention that you're noticing, or any other features that would be worth talking about?
What I was planning to, I'll do I'm going to do a run through on kind of what's on the back of WooCommerce and what's on the back of Shopify, just to because as much as anything. Yeah, you know, we have these conversations, we don't come across the use case until we come across the use case and then think, oh God, if I'd mentioned that 3 months ago. But actually, when I've been working through WooCommerce, which I haven't looked at for blinking years, there are a few things I go, oh, that's quite interesting. Why they ended up with that? And you know, what's happening in WooCommerce, of course, is you add to it and add to it and add to it and solve every use case, and then it falls apart. But actually, with custom fields, we can, you know, we can handle that. So, yeah, I'll do a quick run through and go, actually, that might be, you know, I can understand why that is in there. That, you know, might not be required until it's required, type of thing. But that might be quite a useful thing to do, and then we can, you know, almost use their use cases as our plan forward, so we've got things covered. So
that sounds good. I mean,
they're ahead of the game, because I think we've been, you know, guilty is not the word, but we've been very much BC and then Siteglide and haven't really dealt with and looked at too much else in the meantime. So yes, it's probably a good exercise to go back and review those elements and make sure that, you know, I think for the majority of them, having custom fields in e-commerce particularly will be, even in all the elements of e-commerce, solves the problem. And then, you know, the next phases are actually custom UI, for example, when we've got, you know, we've got sites that have got 40 custom fields, but actually 20 of those are poplar images. So, you know, it'd be nice to visually split all these things into tabs. I think that's our kind of next thing to do with that. I'm guessing we can probably do most of that already within modules if we've got access, as you say, to the e-commerce to amend that layout. But yeah, that's the kind of next stage where we can then build the UI that's right for that customer in the back end.
Definitely, yeah.
And then we get something really powerful. yeah, that's really useful today. We've got lots to think about. Forgive me, John and I are sitting opposite each other, so when I talk, you get John's face without him. Sorry, for those of you who are not used to, we only have one audio on, so John usually grabs it first. So yeah, it's not
one thing I remember.
words.
Just lastly, what I remember, Nick, then maybe send across your sort of priority list again, just so we're 100% clear on what the burning ones are. I obviously appreciate.
Yeah, we probably need to do that.
multi-tax.
A lot has been taken off the priority list, so
Well, that's good.
Yeah, we'll kind of do an updated version with a few outstanding and some new bits.
Yeah, I mean, we want to keep e-commerce moving all the time, but we want to be doing the right stuff in the right order. So
yeah. We do seem to be picking up quite a few even before we go hunting for them at the moment. So and I think there's such an opportunity with Shopify, where it can't do quite what people want it to do, or they end up with lots of modules they're paying for, and then WooCommerce, where they're the kind of things that are now 4 or 5 years old and they are creaking. So it's a good time to people are in pain. It's a good time to offer a solution that that solves those issues. So
definitely, and yeah, we'll only make it better by knowing what it needs. So it's great. It's great. I know it's painful having to be at the rock face with it, but we'll work with you as closely as we can.
But at least we can talk to you and things can happen, because you don't get that on the system. So that's the key thing.
Yeah, no problem. Steve, sorry, anything you'd like to discuss? Any questions? I appreciate you're probably taking quite a bit in at the moment.
I'm in absorb mode at the moment. It's almost listening to all the different things that I've not used before, like GraphQL and Flowbyte and Site Builder and all this. I think I need a 101 on best practice starting off with Siteglide, because there's so much. Is so different, so I need to understand why and why you use different things in Siteglide compared to what I use in Treepo, which is very similar to BC. And I start with templates and then edit and adapt, and then pretty much use Liquid to do whatever I want on the front end of the site.
I've just put my email into chat, Steve. So if you want to connect, it'd be good to catch up with you. We can obviously guide you and answer any questions from the user, the site user side of things as well. So let's connect.
That's interesting. I was thinking about your e-commerce thing there with the attributes. Are you meaning could you use a web app that had the database of the attribute and the various elements? So within when you displayed the e-commerce item, you pull in the information from the web app that says it's that attribute and that size, and then the field that has the price or the addition is then used in the custom attribute field in the e-commerce to spit it out. I'm completely
potentially blind. It's then how it pulls into fields like shipping weights and those. So it is. You can always get the data in. That's never an issue. It is then how it pulls through that we're probably, Luke and Matt might know more about that, but we're a bit more, I'm a bit more vague on that side of things. But we can get the data into Siteglide somewhere. It's then pulling it back out into the right area when required. So and then kind of doing the count, adding the calculate, shipping weight particularly. I've ordered 15 of these and it's this size, and kind of I don't know how all that works currently in the e-commerce element to kind of break into and offer it.
It's all custom. We have to do it all custom at the moment. It's all liquid calculations on
so
to do with postcode areas and weights and everything else. So separate weights for separate postcode areas. It's very, very complicated. So trying to get that into a module would be amazing.
Actually not that's one of the things where we've done the postcode lookup system. Actually, that's that does lend itself to a module straight away. So yeah, maybe there's an answer in that modules element. So yeah, for now, an extra field if one could be put in would be lovely.
Well, we normally would obviously add it to the roadmap, and it'd be something that gets done the normal way. But I think in this case, I'll do my best to have that discussion with both Matts about how we have a quick but reliable fix for you guys, and then it gets retrospectively added as a core feature. Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Well, I'm done, hopefully.
Good.
Yeah, that's been good. Some time for coffee.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, well, thanks, guys. I know it's been quite a while, but quite a lot to go through, and yeah, good to chat. And Steve, if you I mentioned we can have a chat anytime, so just reach out if you want to chat, catch up on things. I appreciate this. Yeah, quite a bit. Just on your point quickly, I'm sure Nick and John will be able to comment further actually, but I know Treeple sort of replicated BC as closely as possible, and that's what people needed back then, and they were quite far along the way, and that's why they were a bit ahead. We tried not to replicate the bad bits, and obviously Platform OS do some things differently anyway, and it's CLI, for example, is a much more sort of modern way of doing things. So there are differences, but obviously we have a BC background, so there should be a good amount of familiarity, and then hopefully there's some things that we try and make things more flexible if possible. Anything possible, but not necessarily easy first. and you're hearing some of those there where we can do it, but we want to make it easier and more integrated.
Yeah, it certainly seems I can find my way around it now and do things, but then it is I've started with the Bootstrap template, but that's great because it's there and I can see things and take it from there. But it's understanding how people are using Flowbyte or Tailwind, etc. And that's more my own web development as opposed to not just a Siteglide kind of thing. It's taking it forward because it does look like the best and most flexible way of doing things, which is what I'm looking for, rather than having to bend something that's in existence.
I suppose. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we brought Tailwind in and Flowbyte in probably a year or two ago now, and for everybody, I think it was new. I know Nick and John, I don't think used it at all, and I'll let you comment on the learning curve. But yeah, it's extremely powerful. We're doing our best to try and make it as integrated as possible as well. But so I think Matt, you were going to jump in.
I just say, like, I think you said earlier you used to working from like CSS and HTML templates and then adding the liquid in when you need it. And I think we found like the liquid is the hardest thing to always be adding. So almost the way through Site Builder, you get the liquid ready built and you can change the styling. And we find that way around is just an alternative. But I think that's the main sort of like concept change.
You don't have to learn Siteglide there. You just learn Flowbytes and general coding. Site Builder does the Siteglide bit for you. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Yeah, because you already know more people know CSS and HTML, so that's easier for people to learn generally than the liquid stuff. So we always make sure we provide the liquid stuff ready built in Site Builder where we can.
Okay, how does GraphQL fit in with it all? So I hear you using it, and I can't see how in the development process where it fits.
Have you used SQL before?
I have, yeah.
It's most similar to SQL, and I just really see it as you use Siteglide as far as you can, and as soon as you get stuck, then GraphQL comes in, and it is able to do, so it's either able to get you any data or change any data. And it involves more development time, like SQL does, but it allows you to create solutions where there are currently none.
Okay. So where does it go in the build of the website? If it's because I understand I have pages with liquid on them. Where does GraphQL just like liquid just fits in there?
So you can use a liquid tag to insert a GraphQL query, and then it creates a liquid variable which contains JSON of the data that you've got. There's full docs on the Siteglide website that we've made for Platform OS's GraphQL. And I think doc 4 or something says, how do I get that GraphQL into my Liquid? So if you go through from the beginning, or is it doc? It's doc 5 is where you actually use Liquid, but the first 4 docs are just like writing the queries in the sandbox.
Okay.
So is that an example, Matt, of sort of?
Yeah, but I'd recommend going from the
Liquid to use it.
beginning, because
Yeah.
we just sort of slowly add more and more features and get you more and more familiar from the beginning, and you can do it in your own time. And I think we're still updating it because Platform OS sometimes change the names of things. So some of the earlier queries, some of the earlier docs, we've tried to go through and update them. But if you notice any mistakes, just let us know and we'll fix the docs.
And Platform OS is obviously quite extensive for that, but yeah, it's probably best to start with our docs, because that's kind of.
The main difference is that our docs are more of a tutorial to sort of teach you the concepts, whereas Platform OS's docs are actually inline, and like when you're in the sandbox and you like hover over something, Platform OS's docs will appear just like contextually. So they are really useful in context, but ours are a bit more of a step back, and how do you actually learn from the beginning. So you like our docs will reference theirs all the time. So hopefully they work well together. They're really for a different audience. Platform OSs are really for people that are already familiar with the kind of thing and just want reference.
Yeah, okay.
I think one more thing from the way I look at it is that is telling you how to get blog posts. And then we've got a Liquid tag from our toolbox that does that for you, basically. So we try and abstract having to write out the query each time by giving you some predefined Liquid. Would that be fair, Matt?
Yeah. So most of the time you would probably use a Liquid tag, which has behind the scenes some Liquid code and some GraphQL that's hidden away, and it's just abstracted just to one line that you can write and customize for speed of development. But GraphQL might allow better performance. It might allow more specific to what your use case is. So you're doing a trade-off between the amount of time you want to put in and how customized you want to do it. So I'd say it's just start with Siteglide and then switch to GraphQL when you've got a particular use case that you want to spend a bit more time on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I mentioned at the beginning, I've built a calendar which basically works on 3 different web apps. One that has just one-off events, one that has monthly events, i.e. the second Wednesday of the month, and one that has weekly events. And the page, it's all Liquid built. The page dynamically builds a calendar. It says, right, this is the 1st of March. It looks through the 3 web apps and pulls in anything that's on the 1st of March and puts it in at the right time, and then goes to the 2nd of March and it does that. But that's all done by Liquid. And I think when I was speaking with Luke, he said there's probably GraphQL that can do a lot of that better, because there's a heck of a lot of looping going on.
Right. So yeah, one of the only sort of tips in terms of performance is that if you would put a Liquid tag which gets data or a GraphQL tag inside a loop, that's bad for performance. Essentially, it really doesn't like it. So the trick is, when you're trying to improve performance, is to have one query at the top and then loop over a more complex data structure. So you're only requesting once, if possible. That's sort of the gold standard to aim for. So obviously the built-in Siteglide code does its best, but because it doesn't know what use case you've got, it does something generic, which is not necessarily optimized. And if you're using GraphQL, you can optimize it to your use case and get better performance overall.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Lots to learn.
Yeah. I must go because I've got another meeting in 5 minutes. So
Sure, no problem.
Oh,
we're still recording. Yeah, thanks everyone, and yeah, let's jump on another call separately, Steve, if you'd like to.
Cool.
And Fantastic.
Brilliant. Have a good day.
See you later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.